Greetings, everybody. I'm Larry Williams, Director of CARMA, the Consortium for the Advancement of Research Methods and Analysis at the Rawls College of Business and Texas Tech University. And it's my pleasure to welcome you to a CARMA Quick Chat, in which we take the opportunity to catch up and chat with people who are influential in the areas of research methods. And particularly, we're excited to talk about with guests who are our upcoming webcast presenters. And today's guest, Dr. Janaki Gooty from the University of North Carolina, Charlotte, falls into that category as she'll be talking with us on December 3rd. So Janaki, great to spend some time with you. We're all struggling to deal with the consequences of COVID. How's it been for you? What parts have been harder than you expected? What parts have been easier than you expected? How's it going?
Yeah, Larry, first of all, thank you for having me, and it's great to see you. So COVID, right? So I will admit that I think I have fared, and I should say my entire family has fared a lot better than a lot of people in the business have or in the world have, right? And I'm sort of grateful, and my heart goes out to the things that people are dealing with, especially with childcare and all of those kinds of things. So 2020 was interesting. I threw myself into work more so than I ever have before. And I would say that we did a lot. And when I say we have a really fantastic, fun research group here. As you know, George Banks is here, Scott Tony Dandel is here, Stephen Rogelberg is here. We all work together, play together. So we kicked it up a notch or 5, and we worked a lot. But at the end of 2020, I found myself completely exhausted all at once. It felt like, what did I just do? I did nothing but work all of 2020. So I think, I took a little breather, and I traveled a little, did some road trips, tried to recuperate. But, it's not easy, right? Because I just miss the small talk of in-person interactions and, just the banter and just walking down the hallway and discussing ideas or, venting about review or two, all of those little things.
Yeah, I've not run into anybody yet on the way from one Zoom room to another Zoom room. The way you do when it's in the hall and it's unexpected, and you kind of walk away with a little warmer feeling in your heart.
Exactly.
We get deprived of all of that. So, there probably aren't very many schools that have as many that are involved, many people involved with CARMA as UNCC. So it's near and dear to my heart. So, well, within all of that research, then tell us about something that you're most excited about of your various research projects and why that particular project.
Yeah, so it is going to be hard to name one, but I will restrict myself to one, Larry.
Oh, you can take it. You can talk about a couple if you like. That's a great situation to be in.
Okay. They kind of, so I'll just wrap it up into this large research program that I would say is kind of the centerpiece of everything we are doing right now. And that's really, I think if I had to sum it up, I would call it Leadership Reimagined. And I would be lying if I didn't admit that a lot of this is also driven by some of my own experiences, but also from watching and talking to other people who've been in leadership positions. So a lot of what we know with regard to leader behavior specifically comes from 2 critical points in history. And one of them is right after the Ohio State and the University of Michigan studies, where followers were asked to describe the effective behaviors of their immediate supervisors. And another critical point in history was around the 70s and 80s when Bernard Bass and others talked about transformational leadership, and they also asked people to describe their superiors. There's one thing that's common across all of these different time periods. The people who were in leadership positions at that point tended to be a pretty homogeneous group of people, And what we end up doing with a lot of talk about equality in leadership positions and leadership training and development especially is about trying to train leaders who might not be the exact same as in demographics or other forms of diversity, right? as the leaders who were in leadership positions at those two critical points in history. We keep trying to teach them those behaviors to the very large extent. So our work is about going back to the drawing board and identifying what is it that constitutes leader behavior, first of all, when leaders look very much like the workforce they are leading currently. Second of all, it's the idea of separating behavior from effectiveness. So as you might well recognize, the leadership literature is a mess in that we tend to confuse what leaders are doing with whether they're effective or not. And many times the definitions and the measurements and even studies are tautological. There's a Van Nippenberg and Sitkin piece in 2013 that captures these issues about transformational leadership in particular really well, where they just said, we just need to go back to the drawing board. Let's just, be done with transformational leadership. So if you start looking across the leader behavior spectrum, which is the foundation of leader development and training programs, Larry, many of our leader behavior programs fall under that category. So a majority of the work we are doing now is about first redefining what it means to act like a leader, and second, doing so using methods that are pretty cutting edge. So that involves experiments are the gold standard, right? So experiments, but also using data science techniques, because with data science techniques, we are able to capture not only large amounts of data, but also we are able to eliminate bias to a much larger extent than if we had humans rating others on leadership. So I would say that's the part that I'm most excited about. It encompasses about 4 or 5 different projects.
Uh-huh.
And, we are excited. We are having some good successes with this line of research initially.
Yeah, well, that's great. And that's a great segue talking about your role as a leader of SMA, and you're coming near finishing up your term. And I'm just wondering, what you feel you have learned about our community and professional associations, what they are doing, what they need to do more of. What thoughts do you have on those topics?
Wow. So perhaps the first thing I want to say is, I think SMA, this leadership role in particular, has taught me that if I can do this, anyone in our business can do it. And let me contextualize this, right? I came here as an international student. Larry, you knew me when I was an international student following Mark Gavin around at SMA, So I think I always felt like the outsider in the business, not only because I had a huge accent, all that kind of good stuff, right? But also just, I used to be like, am I ever going to fit and belong? And, the first thing I want to mention is SMA truly, now being in leadership, the first thing I want to emphasize is anyone that's listening can aspire to and be in these leadership roles if that is something they choose to do. The second thing is, I think our community, our academic community, professional community, the thing that has struck me the most is people are willing to give a lot if you ask them. It's just been incredible how much time and intellectual energy our colleagues will invest if you sit down and have a chat with them. And people are willing to go to great lengths. And this is during 2020, when the world was struggling, that I have talked to hundreds of people at this point that volunteered their time and energy for some of our new initiatives. And many of them with little children at home, which I think creates an additional layer. So that part has been very, very encouraging. I'm a big believer in the inherent goodness of our business, Yeah. I think the last part that you mentioned is, what do we need to change? And this connects directly with CARMA and research methods. And I think this is the other part that I feel very strongly about. I see the biggest thing for us, the challenge for us as a discipline in management, is about becoming more rigorous and intentional about the science we are doing, right? Because we've gone so far down this path of novelty and creating more newness and ideas. Mm-hmm. The testing of ideas, which you sometimes have called substantive contributions, right? the substantive contribution idea does not always have to be tied to novelty and uniqueness, but also about doing real rigorous tests and repeated testing of existing ideas. I see that as the next big frontier for our discipline in maturing, right? In going from where we were, we thought of the last 100 years of management as a young phase. This is going to be where we mature, I think.
Yeah. Well, I think also, you know, there's a change that I see where professional associations, 20 years ago, if you asked them why they existed, it would be to publish a journal and to host an annual meeting. And now there's the realizations that they can be a catalyst and an infrastructure for more ongoing, continuous relationships with the good things that happen from that. And so but they at the same time are inherently slow. The fact that you have committees turning over regularly makes it hard to get things done. So how associations kind of respond to those changing circumstances, I think is the big challenge. And I know SMA is a good exemplar of doing a lot of things in that particular way. So you mentioned that the notion of the type of research that might be viewed as we need more of it. So I guess that's a nice segue to talking about this idea of a new journal. And I've been involved and talked over the year with you, but so others might not know so much about it. So tell us a little bit about the new journal.
Yes. And let me begin by saying thank you for all the chats over the years and, the inspiration too. So SMA has approved the launch of a new journal titled the Journal of Management Scientific Reports. And this is coming about 46 years after Journal of Management was launched. So, it is a big step in our history because, we were also at a strategic inflection point. SMA, as you well know, Larry, has been really well known over the years for its association with research methods and journal management as one of the most collegial and warm places you can go to. And a series of SMA leaders have actually created that culture and that sense of community. And we have a lot of heavy hitters, I would say, for being known as a regional conference, right? Associated with SMA. So one of the things that happened when this current set of leaders were in place, which is Hetty Richardson, I was next, and then Lisa Lambert is coming up. I think this is our equivalent of, meeting in a dingy bar and talking about where do we want the business to go. We were like, what do we want to do? And one of the things that occurred to us is we really don't privilege theory testing and refinement. We privilege the creation of theories and we privilege the tests of new theories, even with our empirical journals, right? Elite empirical journals, the idea of creating something new with every study. So one of the things we wanted to do more of is theory testing and refinement, to retire some theories. And we're not going to get there, what Edwards was talking about in 2010, if we don't keep testing theories. You cannot retire theories by testing it once, repeated testing. So all of these conversations led to the launch of Journal of Management Scientific Reports. And the idea there is this journal is going to be entirely about theory testing and theory refinement. We are beyond ecstatic about it. And one of the things that's happened along the way, and I think this is perhaps the most gratifying part about the journal for us at SMA, is this is a true community effort. And I say that because it was not that one or two of us could pull it off. And I don't know if, Larry, that is because the landscape has changed so much. When you founded ORM, I think on some level you were able to pull that off, perhaps because you were already such a heavyweight in terms of your scholarly reputation at that point, right? I don't know what the difference is, but this was a true communal effort in that there were a lot of people like you involved with the journal already, in terms of the vision and scope in terms of recruiting other people to clarify the vision in terms of, soliciting content in terms of the chief editor search and all of that. So, we're excited and watch or come to SMA 2021 to find out more. We've got some announcements coming up.
Well, I'm sure there'll be many that will be looking forward to that. So to that announcement and just being back at SMA.
Yes.
So, well, finally, just let me ask if you would, to give a preview. You're going to be joining us on December 3rd to give a CARMA Webcast Lecture. Can you give the audience a little bit of a taste of what you're going to be talking about?
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the biggest techniques we use in trying to look at accumulated findings in our business are meta-analyses, right? Meta-analyses have become the gold standard for determining, what are the associations between two variables, or what are the associations overall within a nomological network. And meta-analyses are the gold standard when we start talking about practical implications and, implications for policy. And as much as meta-analyses have been talked about, both in terms of its benefits, but also the criticisms, a fundamental assumption that is made in most meta-analysis is the assumption of independence of effect sizes, which is routinely violated. And there's a paper by Gordon and Chung, 2014, that gets into this. But what they're talking about is the dependency of effect sizes that come from the same study. So if you have 4 studies, all of them feeding effect sizes into the meta, those 4 studies are going to be dependent because they're coming from the same author team, likely same samples, same geographic location, and so on. Well, we extended that idea to say, well, effect sizes are still possibly dependent if they're not only coming from the same study, but also the same author team over a period of time, or the same geographic location, or the same industry, or what have you, right? And when we got into this, what we ended up finding is that there's actually a lot of dependency in meta-analyses, the primary effect sizes, that go unaccounted for. And when we test for it, and we find that there is such dependency, in fact, what we can do is model a meta-analysis as a multi-level model. So nest these primary effect sizes within each of these level 2 nesting variables, if you will, in terms of, it could be, the cluster could be either, geographic region or author team or, anything like that. And we did a bunch of simulations and we reanalyzed some data from earlier meta-analyses. And we find that the findings do change when there's dependency in the primary effect sizes. So this talk is going to be about that paper that came out in ORM in 2021. And it's titled Meta-Analysis as a Multi-Level Model. And I'll also go over a very user-friendly app, Shiny app in R, that folks can use if they want to use this technique.
Yeah, well, I was very much intrigued when I came across the article, and that's one of the reasons I invited you to come give a presentation. So we'll very much look forward to seeing you on December 3rd. For those of you who don't know, you can find more information about our CARMA Webcast Lecture Series and how to access this lecture and the others that we do at the CARMA website. So great catching up with you, Janaki. I'll look forward to seeing you and having an exciting time at SMA. And good luck and stay safe until then.
Thank you, Larry. See you soon. Bye.